This is going to be one part speculation about a future expansion for Monster Hunter Wilds, and one part glorified fanfiction. But I'll save that towards more towards the end when we talk about future, like the title update speculations I have for this, because that's when it gets really fanficky. But first, Monster Hunter Wilds Eldertide, the base expansion. So, obviously from the name Eldertide and the background I set up for this, it is going to feature the return of a bunch of Elder Dragons showing up in the Forbidden Lands. And also a new beach map, as the new map for the expansion. But, to start us off with, I want to establish that it has been a decent bit of time since the end of Monster Hunter World. Enough time that Nata is no longer the sad little boy sitting in the tent and gathering stuff from the villagers, but is instead a fully fledged support hunter who helps us fight using a sword and shield when we call upon him. Now, as with all expansion, I don't know fully what the story of the base expansion would be. I haven't really flushed that out in my mind. Most likely it would revolve around a new powerful Elder Dragon that's either calling the Elder Dragons to the Forbidden Lands or has chased them into them. But what I do know is what monsters I would have the base expansion add. And to start that out, we're going to come over to the Windward Plains. And for the base monsters I would like to see added, firstly, Nibblesnarf. Purely because I think it's funny and I want to hunt Nibblesnarf in a modern Jin game. Because having Nibblesnarf would be hilarious. But, more impactfully, I want Monoblos. Because Monoblos, those of you who don't know, is quite important to the lore of Monster Hunter, but has been kicked out of pretty much everything by Diablos. And I always preferred Monoblos more anyway, and he really needs to get a new Jin tune-up, because I don't think he's appeared in a game since 2nd Gen. Maybe he was in 4 Ultimate, but I don't know if he was. And for those of you who don't know why Monoblos is important, Monoblos is why we have the 4-hunter rule. Because the hunter that would go on to be the village chief of the first game went on a hunt with more than 4 people against a Monoblos, and everyone but him died. And since then, every time there's been a hunt with more than 4 hunters, it never goes well. At least until the Gogmazios hunt or, the Zora Magnaros siege in world, but extenuating circumstances. The reason why we have the 4-hunter limit is because of Monoblos, at least in lore. And so relegating him to be forgotten just does not sit right with me, and he would fit really well in the Windward Plains. For the Scarlet Forest, for regular monsters to come back, I would love to see Gobule. Because again, I want my silly little Leviathans. In the Ruins of Overia, the regular-ish monster I want to see come back would be Guardian Crimson Kurapeko. And yes, this is my attempt to Photoshop it, or, GIMP it, but Crimson Kurapeko. Guardian version. It would act as the living alarm system of Waveria. Is that not a fantastic choice to make a Guardian monster? Again, it's Crimson Kurapeko, so it can summon in a lot stronger monsters. You get what I'm going... I'm not articulating this great, am I? But you get where I'm going with this. The living alarm system of Waveria. When you hunt it, it not only, does its musical self-buffing, but can summon in other Guardian monsters to intercept and attack you. Would that not be a really cool mechanic, especially with how many monsters can be on a map in Wilds? I just think it makes perfect sense having a Guardian Crimson Kurapeko. For the new area of the expansion, I propose we have a beach map somewhere off the side of the Scarlet Forest. Now, I didn't really find a good picture for this, but I imagine this map as being something of a mix between the jungle and old jungle from Older Gen Monster Hunter and the deserted island from Monster Hunter Tri. Not only could we have Legiacris be in this area, we could also bring back the crabs. And alongside them, my favorite first large monster, Great Jaggy, as well as his pack of Jaggy and Jagai, or Jagay. The reason I bring these guys up is because I love them. My favorite first large monster. I want to see him again in a modern Monster Hunter game. Please, Capcom. You already gave me my boy Laggy. Now give me Jaggy. I beg of thee. And again, it would work really well in a beach-adjacent map like the deserted island mixed with the jungle. And also, with them there, you could also have them migrate back into the Windward Plains, because they'd also fit really well in there. But the regular monsters, and one Guardian I thought of, aren't the main draw of the expansion, of course. That would be Elder Dragons. And while there is one very obvious Elder Dragon we would have, aside from the one we already have in the Oil Well, but the obvious one is, of course, Shagaru Magala in the Ruins of Reveria. But with how they handled the one Elder Dragon we have in Base Wild, in Gogmazios, I actually see two different options for how we would handle Elder Dragons in this expansion. Either we just have a handful of Elder Dragons per map that fit the environment, with the examples I have in mind for that being, like I said, Shagaru in the Ruins of Wyveria, in the Scarlet Forest, Chameleos and Namiel, because they fit perfectly there too. And in my hypothetical beach map, you would have... Well, we'll get to that. Because, with how they handled Gogmazios, the other option I see for how to handle Elder Dragons is, instead of how they've been in all previous games, being normal-ish hunts for the most part, we have one big siege hunt Elder Dragon quest for each map. Obviously, we already have Gog for the Oil Well Basin, but for our village map, and to fully champion in the fact that I want underwater combat to return really badly, please Capcom, let me swim, Cedius. Because I really want to hunt the giant Viking eel whale Dunkleosis again. Please Capcom, give me my favorite monsters back. You already did with Laggy. He's my favorite monster, but give me the rest of the Tri-Gang. I want to do the swim. But also, again, if we had a beach map, Cedius would be a perfect siege hunt for that if they gave us full underwater combat back, which I am very much hoping for, which is part of the reason why I themed this whole expansion idea around a beach map. Now, if we do the giant siege hunt idea for the Scarlet Forest, the returning monster I think makes the most sense here, if we don't get an entirely new one for this, would be Yamatsuzukami, the giant floating octopus balloon dragon. We have the cephalopod skeleton system in Wilds now. Think about it. We give this guy that kind of skeletal... words not wording. You know what I mean. We give him the cephalopod skeleton, which would allow him to do way more things than he could in 2nd Gen. make him his own unique, like, Wyveria Ruins map, tower, special arena. Give him a lot more tentacle slams, give him a lot more variation in his vacuum suck, let him actually control his Great Thunderbug Swarm as like a, like hunter-seeking drones. Would that not be a really fun siege fight, especially if you could sever every tentacle he has like you can with New Udra? Plus, again, it would be bringing so much new life to a very old monster. I think that would be a really, really cool new hunt. And along with that, it would bring back my favorite armor from Freedom Unite. And the foolhardy Stone Fist. Because I really liked hitting monsters with Giant Stone Fist. Bonk. Now, for the Windward Plains, if we were to have the Giant Siege quest, there is two very obvious potential monsters. Dinmoran and Dinmoran and Jinmoran. The giant sand whale dragons. Again, could you not see how incredible they could make that siege quest? You start it on the sand ship that we already have in Wilds. Have Ballistae on it, you running around the deck. If you wanted to go really crazy with it, you, the hunter, could take command of the ship and literally sail the sand ship like you're playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag or something, and having ship to giant dragon whale combat going across the sand deserts outside of the Windward Plains. Would that not be an incredible siege? And then, not only do you do that part or jump over onto the monster to mine its and attack its weak points when it's surfaced, but you could have the phase transition to the hunting it straight up literally be you sailing herding it towards a giant cliff face. The Jin or Dinmoran dives down, bursts out the side of the cliff. The sand ship goes soaring off the edge, deploys the air balloon system, and glides down, crashing down into the sand. And that's when you get the siege platform built into the sand ship to fully finish off the sand whale. Would that not be epic? Now, this is where my ideas for the base expansion start to peter out, though, because if we were to do the giant siege monster version of this, I do not really know what we do for the Ice Shard Cliffs or the Ruins of Wyveria. Maybe Dalamadur, but doesn't really fit in my brain. Though I would love to finally get to hunt Dalamadur. However, when it comes to the title updates for this hypothetical expansion, I have some ideas. And this is where it gets to more glorified fanfiction-y. Now, for the first little bit of the title updates, it would be your usual fare. A new monster or two per title update, a couple event quests, nothing crazy. But towards the end of the title updates, we get the equivalent of Alatreon in this hypothetical. I don't know why I'm zoomed out on this picture. Now, the Alatreon equivalent title update would take place in our hypothetical beach map, where in an entirely new special arena, we would face off against Dire Morales. Yeah, would that not be it? Firstly, right, like the story for this in my brain starts with the ocean in the beach map starting to turn red. We have Eric out there doing ecological research on this, wondering why this is happening, comparing it to the Scarlet Forest, realizing that this is definitely not an outflow of the thing that makes the Scarlet Forest red sometimes, but is the phenomena he originally thought was drew comparison to in the Scarlet Forest. Because if you remember, when you first go to the Scarlet Forest, he makes mention of old rumors about a monster that turned the ocean red. Well, we have the ocean turn red. Dead fish start to wash up on shore. We consult the information and we figure out that this may well be a black dragon level threat as Dire Moralis approaches. To combat a threat of this magnitude, we have to put everything else on hold. Maybe we go to the village leaders across the different villages and go, hey, a new, even more insanely powerful monster is showing up. Are you going to freak out if we bring in siege weaponry? Or maybe we save that for something upcoming. But Dire Moralis, right? I just need to say Dire Moralis again. If you know the mountain, the walking volcano, even more so than Zora Magnaros, it sinks islands for fun. It is a near-continental threat. It would pose danger to the entirety of the Eastlands just showing up, let alone if it actually started making its way inland. So we start to prepare. We put everything we have into dealing with Dire Moralis as it gets closer and closer. This inexorable dread towards the end, in the second to last title update, right? So much effort into it that we have to stop spawn camping Zoshia. That'll come back up later. We finally have our incredibly epic 8-hunter Dire Moralis siege hunt. Because again, you would have to have it be 8-hunter. Even if the other big siege hunts weren't 8-hunter, this one has to be, because again, Black Dragon level siege hunt threat. And then after we have the epic fight and Dire Moralis finally falls, we find out something horrifying. Because we had to devote everything we had into stopping Dire Moralis, when we return and things cool down a touch, we realize we weren't there to keep spawn camping Zoshia. And it revived. And it escaped from the Dragon Torch. Now, Zoshia is loose in the wild. We can't do... And instead of the occasional Zoshia Master Rank hunts, we would instead have Zoshia interceptions or Zoshia invasions, where randomly Zoshia, being different, a little different than Zoshia, would show up on each map, actively targeting the Elder Dragons that have inhabited that map, if we do the multiple Elder Dragons thing, or have both regular Elder Dragons and the Siege Hunt Elder Dragons. But Zoshia shows up. It either targets the Apexes if we don't have regular Elder Dragons, or the Elder Dragons that have replaced the Apexes if we have regular Elder Dragons too. Which, presumably, we do both. At least in this idea. So, we now have to do Zoshia interceptions, where we hunt and repel Zoshia, but never kill it, never stop it. It flees, and over time, it starts to change and mutate, looking a little differently. Roll forward into the final title update. We receive a urgent, and I mean urgent, summon to the Grand Hub. Everyone is called in, not just us, the hunter. We have Fabius. We have all of the villagers, like the village leaders from the various places. The Allharkin shows up. We have everybody important shows up. And then, in the middle of the day, not on her special stone platform, but just walking up, we get the Diva. And firstly, like, as she walks up, she kind of does her song thing, but it's an entirely new song. A song those familiar with old Monster Hunter should know. The song of the Wyvern of Destruction. The song of Fatalis. As she finishes the song, as she finishes walking up, the Diva opens her eyes and reveals this tale, the true story of why the Diva is here, the true purpose of her songs. Because the Diva's eyes aren't normal Wyverian eyes. They're Fatalis eyes. The Diva and those of her line are doing the same thing that the twins in Rise were doing, but with the original Fatalis, with white Fatalis. And her songs, with the emergence of Dire Morales and Oshia being loose on the land, can no longer fully keep White Fatalis asleep. For generations before that, there have been a line of divas that use their music to lull Fatalis to sleep. But now, that doesn't work anymore. Now, Fatalis is waking up. And not just any Fatalis, again, the original, the White Fatalis, the true Wyvern of Destruction, the true Wyvern of Destiny. Again, if you know the song I'm talking about, I'm referencing that there. But White Fatalis as the final true quest. But not just White Fatalis, we'll get to that. Everyone obviously freaks out because this is the biggest bad of all of Monster Hunter. And so, Fabius tells us that there have been hunters that have faced Fatalis before with the Research Commission and beyond. I will call in what help I can. And with that, we get the return of the excitable A-lister, aka Aiden. Our pal from Monster Hunter World, but not just Monster Hunter World, because he is also the Ace Cadet from 4th Gen, which means he has character interactions with the other Ace Cadet Hunter and people from 4th Gen, right? He knows Nadia. He knows Gemma, aka Little Miss Forge. So many character interaction stuff there. He rocks up, but he's not just rocking up in his in-game Iceborne gear. No. One piece of his armor, like a single arm piece or like a shoulder pauldron or something, but one piece of his armor is Fatalis armor. The hide of the Black Dragon itself is part of his gear, because he was there in the Fatalis hunt and he helped us face the end of the final threat, the Fatalis hunt. He was there for that, and he has a piece of that gear. Alongside him, we also get the general who helped lead the command of that mission, that hunt, the Fatalis hunt in World. He shows up with Aiden, and alongside them, we also have the field team leader. Only he's not the field team leader anymore. He is the commander of the Astera outpost, right? And he also has in-game Iceborne armor and weapons that you can't get in Wilds, but are the in-game sets, like a near in-game set from Iceborne. So he, Aiden, and the general all rock up, go, if what we have been told is true, if the original Fatalis truly is coming, this is going to be the most dangerous hunt of ever, Like, the climacticest of climactic battles. Everybody is freaking out. Everybody is preparing. We get this statement of, irregardless of what the villagers would previously wish, we need to bring in all of the siege equipment. We set up where we know Fatalis is being lulled to sleep in a nearby area. Basically, an equivalent of the Castle Shrade map, but it's Ruins of Wyveria. We have Dragonators, we have roving ballistas, we have cannons, we have demolishers, we have every siege weapon possible. Maybe we have a fixed version of the Convergent Elderbreaker from the Gogmazios hunt. We have all of the siege gear you could imagine in this special arena. We're doing our preparations. Everyone's like, if we don't do this, everyone die. Like, it is incredibly stressed how devastatingly important dealing with this is, because it's White Fatalis, the original Fatalis, the one that wiped out Sherazad Kingdom whatever years ago, a kingdom on par or nearly on par with ancient Wyveria. And now it is coming. Now it is awakening. Right? And as our preparations are winding to a close, the diva shows up and her eyes open again to the Fatalis eyes, and it's here, it's awake. Right? And we get White Fatalis. We get White Fatalis in another not 8 hunter quest, or maybe an 8 hunter siege, but either an 8 or a full-on 10 or 12 hunter siege. You can either have full support hunters, of course, or up to 8, at the very minimum, a 10 hunter siege here, because we can either have 8 support hunters of like you plus 7 other support hunters of your choice, or you and 7 other hunters of your choice, plus a mandatory for the quest field team leader and Aiden. Again, Aiden in his Fatalis armor, his like partial Fatalis armor. The diva shows up. She tells us that she can no longer keep Fatalis asleep. He is awake. He is coming. Pause, AO. But White Fatalis emerges. He shows up, and the second White Fatalis shows up flying out of his, eclipse sky wormhole thing that he does, right? Maybe it is a wormhole, ancient tech sealed away. Maybe it's just an eclipse. White Fatalis arrives, and the second we see White Fatalis, Aiden collapses. He's grasping at his armor piece that has the Fatalis parts, which are steaming black goo and smoking and like growing. He collapses, the Fatalis armor reawakening, regrowing around him. The field team leader grabs him and drags him away, screaming about how he'll try and fix this, do what he can. Aiden and the field team leader, who you think were going to fight with you, are out of the hunt, at least for a time. And there's this crazy, epic battle against White Fatalis, who doesn't just have White Fatalis moves, he has World Fatalis moves, he has a little bit of Crimson Fatalis moves, and the fact that he can summon the meteors down. Imagine the most epic White Fatalis fight you can, using siege equipment, your own weapons, running around the secret, swapping out your weapons to what works on him. Pure craziness, right? There's dragon lightning and fire and meteors everywhere. Then White Fatalis flies up to charge up a incredibly powerful Nova nuke attack, right? And we get a shout call out of, no one can survive this, you have to get out of there. And you do. Because unlike every other nuke in Monster Hunter where it's like a damage check to stop it, or you have to hide behind something, to survive this attack, you have to physically leave that area of this arena. You get on your Secret and run, and you have just enough time to do it. But if you don't get up and run, like right when you're told to, you're toast. And you have to literally escape that area of the arena. And by the time the timer for the attack ticks down, or if you don't, you become part of the cutscene where you're obliterated. And you get carded. Or maybe even you specifically fail the quest. But, which I don't know if that would actually work, but at the very least, if you get hit by the Fatalis nuke, you're instant carded no matter how good your armor and how much health you have. The nuke, the attack, the massive explosion of dragon lightning and fire doesn't just obliterate anyone caught in the arena, though. It levels the arena. The ballistas are basically evaporated and torn to splinters. The Dragonators get rent out of use. The Elder Breaker explodes. The Devastator gets flipped backwards and explodes. Whatever siege gear you have is obliterated, and the arena is completely warped and changed into a near flat mass, like map of charred and scorched earth. You get back to the hunt, and by this point, at this second phase of the hunt, the field team leader and Aiden return. Aiden's shook up and beat up, and he's missing the Fatalis piece of his armor, but he's back in it. And now with the full team of 10, you confront White Fatalis. But it's not done. It's not over. Because as you start to face off against White Fatalis again, it eventually goes to prepare for another super nuke, right? But the pathway to quickly escape is gone, right? Or maybe it's just at some point in the second phase of the fight, however you personally would rather see this, but the second phase of the White Fatalis fight, Zoshia shows up. But it's not normal Zoshia. Zoshia's wing arms have transitioned and evolved into being like the Gormagala, Shagarumagala true wing arms. It looks a little different. Its proportions have changed. It's got some new features. And it's not Zoshia, it's Ascendant Zoshia, or maybe True Guardian Zoshia, or some other, emphasis on its changed and evolved title, Zoshia. And now, it's not just you and 9 other hunters, support or otherwise, versus White Fatalis. It's you and 9 other hunters, support and otherwise, versus Zoshia and White Fatalis, as White Fatalis and Zoshia are also fighting each other. And it gets even more insane and nuts, and Zoshia has some crazy new attacks, like maybe even give it, Old Everworm, what is the name? In-boss of base Iceborne. Give it that dragon spirit bomb attack, but it's Wilk energy or something. The craziest battle you could possibly have against 2 black dragon level threats each. Zoshia proving to truly be the equal dragon weapon. Right? You see where I'm going, right? And then eventually, if you actually succeed in the quest, you defeat not just White Fatalis, but True Guardian Zoshia. You get materials from both of them for the quest, and in turn, you get not just a set of White Fatalis gear, not just the Master Rank Zoshia gear. You get Master Rank True Guardian Zoshia and Master Rank White Fatalis gear, but you also get the even crazier Equal Dragon Armor. The Zoshia gear is just better Zoshia gear. White Fatalis gear is the world's Fatalis gear turned up to 11. But the Equal Dragon Armor, not only do you need Zoshia and Fatalis parts to make it combined, but you also need parts from every other Elder Dragon introduced in Eldertide. Each set requiring, the gem. Each set requires a bit of Zoshia parts, a bit of White Fatalis parts, and a gem from every other Elder Dragon. Not necessarily each armor set piece requiring a gem, but the entire armor set needs at least 1 gem from every other Elder Dragon, proving that you are equal to all Elder Dragons, giving you and unlocking the Equal Dragon Armor, which is insanely powerful. I have no idea what the equipment sets would be, but they would be incredibly busted. And the armor would have an ultimate ascension thing, transcend thing on it, to where you could shove more Elder Dragon parts into it to access more and more upgrade levels to make it even stronger. Or maybe it would be like the Gogmazio set, where it could have the set bonuses from multiple Elder Dragons, depending on what Elder Dragon parts you feed the armor. Or something equally crazy like that. Obviously, there would be weapons for each of them too. That would be insanely. That would be, the strongest weapons available at the end of the game. But would that not be an incredible climax to finish the wild, the final send off for Wilds? And then, of course, Aiden and the field team leader. Maybe the field team leader leaves, but Aiden stays and acts as a support hunter from then on. Or both of them stay and act as support hunters, and you get some wrap-up dialogue between him and between Aiden and Nadia and Gemma, and tying back to his history as the ace cadet and everything even more than already happens. And like a few minor epilogue quests where Zoshia is gone, right? This, you fully put in this climactic battle, because Zoshia wasn't at the Dragon Torch when it died, its remains can't draw energy from the Dragon Torch and reconstitute, so Zoshia's gemination stops. And Zoshia is fully finished. The Dragon Torch no longer has Zoshia parasitizing it, and the entirety of the Eastlands flourishes even more. Maybe that, would that not be awesome? And I just wanted to share this kind of this thought experiment glorified fanfic with you, because I was talking to my cousin about it, and yeah, thought it was really cool, and wanted your guys' thoughts on it. What are you still doing here? The video's over. There might be some for you up there, or some for you over there, but there's nothing left here, so hit the YouTube buttons and move on.